Hey there, and welcome to the behind the scenes of the Rustic Songbird podcast. I'm Lydia Walker from rusticsongbird.com, and I'm taking you behind the scenes of an interview on the podcast. I hope you enjoy this video, but before we get started, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy topics like this, we have new podcast episodes coming out every single week, and the behind the scenes will be here on this YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Also, if you enjoy this show, consider becoming a patron and supporting Rustic Songbird on Patreon. You can check out all the details at patreon.com/rusticsongbird. All right, let's get into today's show. My guest on the show today is Damian Keyes, and he is going to be talking today about releasing your own music as an independent musician, especially for songwriters who are wanting to get their music out there. And we're going to talk about what's working now and some great strategies and also some encouragement for people that are wanting to put their music out there. So, Damian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. I've watched a lot of your YouTube videos, really appreciate your practical advice that you give, also the tough love. You don't hold back very much, but at the same time, you're also encouraging. Like, I can tell you have compassion for musicians because you are one. You've been in the music industry for a long time and you've seen the struggles and you want to provide answers. So I think that's really helpful. And just off the top right here, I wanted to say thank you for all that you're doing for musicians and for the good stuff that you're putting out there.
Thanks. Do you know, it's quite interesting actually, because quite a lot of people, I think probably more in America, but quite a lot of people do say to me, I love the fact that you have this no nonsense, tough love attitude. And I always think, do I?
It comes across very well. You're saying, like, this is the truth, whether you like it or not. I'm just going to share what's working and what's possible too. I think it's just really refreshing to see someone that's bringing it and just being very transparent about it. So
I think a lot of
needed.
it as well comes from my background and having, and understanding that I didn't come from a background with any money. I didn't come from a background with any musical history. So therefore, it was a case of having to learn as I went, and then having failed pretty much everything. Then all of the things that did work. I was just like, oh, I wish people would have told me this at the beginning. When you're trying to make your way as a musician, you just think, look, I'll do whatever it takes. The problem isn't that. The problem is, I don't know what that means. Like,
Exactly.
if you tell me what to do, I will do it. But if you don't tell me, I'm just going to splash around trying to learn to swim. And that's the difficult bit.
Exactly. And when you can just see a pattern or a blueprint or see what is working in the new landscape of things, I think it's really encouraging for musicians because they're not trying to make it up as they go. They can follow something, and just to look up to people that are doing it and that are working in the industry every day, that are writing songs, they're getting cuts or they're making hits. Like, if you kind of follow their patterns, you can learn from what they're doing because it's always changing. So even something that worked a year ago is not working the same way this year.
In fact, things that worked a month ago aren't working, which is crazy. That's how
Right. With
fast
all the
things are changing.
algorithm changes, it's
Yeah.
constant.
And consumption patterns, with something like this that's going on, like we're in the middle of this pandemic, and because of that, consumption has just changed, and to the point where you could literally have something change overnight. Because if something happens with the news, you guys are going through a huge election, we could have something with any government around the world changing a lockdown, and all of a sudden you could release music at the moment, which could be perfect or totally wrong at the same time. And so everything is so to play for, because this is, I've said this for years, but this is the first real time in history where us as artists, we have all of the control. We have complete control. The problem is there's a lot to do. That's the issue, is there's so much to do that we've got to try and figure out what the priorities are. But there's no gatekeepers. There's no one telling us we can't get in. When I signed, I've had a few record deals, but I had one major label deal, and all my friends didn't have label deals, and it was like we got let into the club and they got turned away. It was such a weird feeling, and that's not there anymore. We can now take control of our own art.
Yes, that's so empowering, because if you do believe in the music that you're putting out, you're going to put more heart into it. You're going to put more time and sweat equity into it, and you're just going to do whatever it takes, like you said. But a lot of people might not even start because they don't know where to start, with all those options. So I've heard a lot of people say, stick with one thing, like pick one thing first and really get good at that, and then add one more thing. So what have you seen is working well right now for the independent musician who's kind of wearing all the hats?
Yeah, and there's more and more hats all of the time. And then we look to social media, which sometimes social media can be a blessing and a curse in the way that we're seeing all of the things that people are doing, and we're trying to compete with what everyone else is doing. And people like Gary Vaynerchuk are telling us to be on every single social media platform under the sun. You've got to create more. You've got to make more content. And I'm like, Gary, I don't sleep at night. Help me. I can't fit it all in. And at the end of the day, this whole, yes, we do have to document, but we're creators. That's what we do. So we do have to create. Therefore, we do need time. We have to have time to create. So I think, for me, there's a couple of real basic priorities that musicians need to get straight. Number one is the calendar, is the most important thing. The calendar is to say, I need to take a step back, look at the big picture, and say to myself, right, if I'm going to release a certain amount of music, what does that look like in the next 6 months? Then I'm going to put the exact dates in. So rather than what musicians do is they go, January, maybe March, maybe May. And you're like, what does that mean? Like, does that, and I want someone to say, January 22nd, that's when it's going to go out, whatever that Friday is, it's going to be that date. And then it's going to be March 4th, whatever that Friday is. And at least then you go, good, right, our structure's in. We need to be adaptable. We need to be flexible. But now we can say, right, well, what do we need for that release? When does it need to be mixed, mastered, uploaded to Spotify? When does it need to have a music video shot, a photo shoot? When am I going to start promoting it? All of a sudden, I can put it in the calendar and it can dictate the pace, because there's nothing worse as a musician than when that you have to do social media and it's like, oh, I haven't posted something today. And at that point, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to post something bad because you just go, selfie, or you're going to just go, I'll just wait till tomorrow. And then that's so easy to let that habit slide into tomorrow. So I think what's really important is the calendar. I think, like you said, prioritizing is really, really important. And you get amazing artists now who are just massive at one platform. The reason why they're massive on one platform is because they really focused on the love on that platform. And we all do this thing where we just go, I give 110%. And then the practical side goes, you can only actually have 100%. There's no such thing as 110. But every time you split all your energy, you split your time, that's what you're doing. You're saying, I haven't got as much time to put into these two things. So therefore, I'm putting less love into two than I would if I put them into one. Of course, we're so scared about what won't happen instead of what's scared about what could happen. So that way we say, it's not about me growing on YouTube. It's about me being scared that if I'm not on Instagram, something's going to go wrong. So you just go, right, okay, I'm going to do YouTube and Instagram. Yeah, but TikTok's growing. And if I'm not on TikTok, I might miss that opportunity. And of course, you're spending 20 minutes a day on a platform which needs 4 hours or something. So the priorities and not being worried about missing an opportunity in one place, knowing that if you do one thing well enough, the opportunities will always come your way. Same thing as it's always been. I feel like my background, first and foremost, is a musician. I'm a bass player. I've done about 2,000 plus gigs. And so I'm pretty confident as a bass player. And I know that if I want to get work as a bass player, I've got no problem with that, because I know that when I get on that stage, I'm a safe pair of hands as such. Therefore, if I do gig after gig after gig and I make that my thing, opportunities will come. If I go to Nashville, or when I come to Nashville, and I absolutely next year, and I'm there, and if I want to come and do some gigs, if I can get that one gig, that's all I need is that one gig. If I do a really good job with the one gig, it'll lead to 2 gigs, 4 gigs. Social media is no different. So I think that calendar and priority thing is really, really crucial.
Yeah, that's so good. And you mentioned planning. Having a plan at all is going to put you ahead of the curve of other musicians and people that just throw their music up there and don't have any plan at all. So I really like the 20-day release plan that you created, and you've got a great video on that as well, walking down day 1, day 2, and walking through the whole 20 days. I've sent that to several friends of mine that have asked me, like, what's a good release plan? I'm like, well, here's a great way to start. And so I think that's a great resource for anybody who's maybe either not released music before, or they just threw it up and didn't have any kind of plan. So even just tracking out 20 to 30 days before and just saying, this is what I'm going to be posting every day leading up to it, making it intentional. I think is so helpful because it builds up that hype, and then people know that it's coming. And by the time it comes out, they're ready for it.
Yeah, and even if you can completely change all of the things on all of the days according to your skill set, but at least you can look at it however you see it. At least you can look at it and say, I am doing positive things to get stuff out there. Even if you say, I didn't like that bit of it, or I want to change some of the dates, but at least you can look at it and say, there's nothing worse than when like you said, you put a piece of music out and then you just go, and you have 24 hours and you're telling everyone, you're phoning, you got to get my music and download my music, text, download my music. And then the next day comes and you go, think I'm done. And it's like, that's the 24 hours. And it's like, we can't release music like that. Music is so based on timing, and the difference of timing, the difference can be charting or not charting. The difference can be not just that, but it could be the difference between number 10 in the charts and number 1 in the charts. I have friends who've had number 1 albums. One of those, one of my best mates had a number 1 album in the UK, and he puts the whole thing down to building the fan base, but more importantly, timing. He was like, if we got one element of that timing wrong, it probably would have charted in the 20s. But the fact that we did everything right, and therefore, if you sell, for example, if you sell 1,000 copies of something, sell, buy, listen, whatever we call it, but if we sell 1,000 copies, okay, so if that's over 3 months, nothing's going to happen. But if you sell those 1,000 copies within an hour, all hell's going to break loose, because Spotify is going to say, what just happened? Literally 1,000 in 1 second is like, okay, this is going to go into every playlist on Spotify. 1,000 in 3 months, nobody's going to care. So that's the difference between timing of getting everyone and having that. I call it like the Braveheart strategy, where they're all lined up and the enemy's charging, and he's there, he's going, wait, and they're all going, and he's going, wait, and he just says, now, and everyone charges at them. And at that point, you're like, got the timing right. And if you can get the timing right, it can be such a huge difference.
Absolutely. And like you said earlier, just planning out your timing, knowing when it's going to be, and then mapping out everything leading up to that point. And then afterwards as well, once it's out, then you just keep promoting it. You don't just post it once and expect everybody to find it. They don't know it's there until you let them know.
Yeah.
So you have to keep sharing it and ask other people to share, and be very intentional with that call to action so they know about it.
And musicians, we're very, musicians are very polite people a lot of the time. We say things like, oh, I don't really want to bug people with my music. And you go, I know. And then you go to the other side of YouTube and it's just these salespeople that just batter you over the head with sell. And musicians are the opposite. They just go, they say, I'll just put this over there. And if you want it, it's just over there. And we've got to start getting a bit of a happy medium. We've got to get a little bit more salesy and say, look, come on, I'm proud of this. I want to push this. And so when I get that question a lot, where people say, I don't want to annoy people with spam. So it's like, well, don't annoy people with, nobody wants spam. Give them value. And then at the end of the value, say, by the way, go and listen to my song, and depending on your circle of friends, so I might contact you and I might say, by the way, the song's out. It would mean the world to me if you would go and listen to it, which is very different to my best mate, who I'd ring up and I'd say, go and listen to my song, and then listen to it again, and then listen to it again. You're my friend. Like, get on the case, listen to it. And so, you're treating everybody, but you are pushing them and saying, look, come on, we can do this. I want people to hear my music. I spent so much time on this. I don't want this to be left to a gamble or left to chance. I'm going to push it. And so if a few people, if 10 people say, oh, all right with your song, but another 100 people go and listen to it, I'll take those thoughts every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard in one of your recent videos that you were talking about how when you do keep showing up and keep releasing music and putting things out there, then it's basically inevitable for something to take off. Because if you're doing that, you're getting better every time. You're building your audience over time, and then something is going to hit at the right time. And you've been putting out things regularly. Something's going to go viral or take off, and then you've got this whole library and this whole catalog of other music for people to check out once they've seen that. So what have you seen with artists who have kind of broken through, and things that they're doing to get to that point where it kind of hits critical mass and it kind of takes off, but then they've got all of this previous work too that they've been doing behind the scenes.
And that's the story of my life. You know, I don't have some amazing world-class talent, and so I can't just throw something up on YouTube and went, oh look, I just happen to have gone viral. So I can't do that. But what I can do is I can work hard, and I can make sure that when people say right place at the right time, I'll say, no, I'm going to put myself in the right place at the right time, because I'll also be in the wrong place at the wrong time another 999 times. So the one time that it is the right place at the right time is because I put myself there. And I think that's the story of hard work and going through it. You know, my YouTube is a classic example of that. I started doing a lot of this stuff, being a music educator for the last 20 years. I started my journey on YouTube because it felt like I needed to learn about social media. And lots of people have made 5 videos and they've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I've had to make 800 to figure this stuff out, you know. But at the same point, I'm going to be there. And so this is the bit for musicians. You know, I can go and do a gig, and I know that if I go and do 1 gig, I'll get asked to do another 10 gigs. The reason isn't because I was in the right place at the right time. It's because I've done 2,000 of these, and it took me 2,000 gigs to get this good. It's not something that I lucked upon. And I think that's the key, is every time you write a song, you are 1 step better than you were before that song. Every time you do a collab, you are 1 step better than you were before. You've learned something, you picked something up, someone's heard from you. And, you know, we were talking just a minute ago about positivity. And this is what I think is the most positive message in the entire world. You are literally 1 minute away from greatness. You are 1 song away from changing your entire life. You are 1 gig away from that sliding doors moment that will change everything, because you happened to say, I just did that gig and I met that person, and then from there this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, and now I'm the biggest of the big. But when you look back, it wasn't the fact that you're in the right place at the right time. It's the fact that the person who saw you recognized the fact that you were good enough. And the reason why you were good enough is because of all of the other doors which were slammed in your face.
And it's that domino effect of showing up every day and playing those thousands of gigs over and over, when sometimes you might wonder, is anybody even listening? Is anybody even in the audience? You know, but it's all of those times, it's good practice no matter what. And then you meet people just one at a time, over and over and over. And it's just bound to take off at some point if you don't give up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know. And how cool is that? You never know. Like Bryan Adams released the track that went with the Robin Hood soundtrack. And he said in an interview that him and Mutt Lange were sat in a studio and they thought to themselves, oh, we've got to do that song for the Robin Hood thing. It was almost like a kind of, oh, I forgot about that. They grabbed a guitar, they started writing, and they said it kind of just wrote itself. They were not expecting it to be practically the biggest hit of all time. It was in the chart for the longest amount of time. And it was something that they just thought, oh, we've got to do that Robin Hood thing. We've said, yes, let's knock something together. Turns out changed everyone's life, you know, changed all of their lives because it was a great song. They just 1 minute, they were just that 1 minute away from it. And imagine if they just hadn't written that song. Imagine if they just went, no, let's come back to that another time. Let's not do it now. So I just think that's inspirational.
It is, because it's probably the song that you least expect that takes off. Or you talked about like how things can feel out of control. And so there are elements out of our control that are variables that we don't know about, you know, who's going to watch it, that one person that could watch it and then share it to a huge audience or to a platform, or invite you into a bigger stage. And then that opens you up to a bunch of networking opportunities for the rest of your career. And so I do believe that one person at a time is the way to go, because if you can connect with that one person, you can connect with a huge audience. You can connect with so many other people if it's, you know, you showing up authentically as yourself and willing to put in that work and put in that time and really care about the people that are listening to your music.
Especially now, because what we are seeing at the moment is we are seeing a lot of musicians, a lot of artists who are very despondent. They've lost a lot of their oomph. They're just thinking to themselves, oh, what's the point? I put something out, no one's listening at the moment, consumption is not there, and they're going missing. And I get it, you know, this is a tough time. really tough. I have an agency and a management company, an events company, where we do 1,500 events a year, and so far we've done 3. It's
Wow.
October, so we've lost about, I don't know, we've probably lost a good million in revenue, maybe a bit more than that. We've lost, probably for the 1,500 gigs plus an agency with another 5,000, we've probably lost work for 170 to 200 musicians that just haven't had any work. It's so hard to see that. So I get it. This is a tough time. But so what? And this is where the tough love thing is like, okay, so what? Because everyone else is going to turn around and they're going to say, I'm just going to play PlayStation. But someone is going to say, you carry on playing your PlayStation because I'm coming out of this with a win. And if it takes me 12 months or 24 months or 36 months or 5 years, I'll still come out with this with a win, because everyone else is going to take a break and I'm not going to take a break. And it'll be those people that eventually will come up with that big win when they say, hey, when everyone's whinging and saying, I didn't get anything from that, it was such a terrible time. And someone will say, it was a terrible time, but I did okay, because they made it okay.
Yeah. And if they're willing to see what everybody else is doing and do something different, then that will actually help them to stand out. So this could be an opportunity for someone who's willing to create differently, to figure out new ways of doing gigs, new ways of doing merch, new ways of getting their music out there. They're going to have to navigate new things, but they can make it work if they have that drive and are willing to figure things out.
Yeah, and if somebody wants the best bit of advice for this time, how to make it in this time, it's realize that the way that you feel, everybody else feels at the moment. Everyone is uncertain. They are angry. They are pissed off. They're just frustrated. And so we're all looking for not just answers, we're just looking for friendly face. We're looking for entertainment. We're looking for someone to put an imaginary arm around our shoulder, socially distantly, and say, and just say, this is going to be okay. And music can do that. And so if you want to grow in this time, this is the perfect time to take advantage of a time where people are just unhappy and say, I'm going to do something that's going to help you. I'm going to bring value to you on a one-to-one basis, because legacy is the most important thing, and you can create legacy on a one-to-one basis. So if you've got that one person in your audience that you just say, I'm going to sing you a song, and you sing a song and you send that person in your audience a song and just say, I saw you were a bit down. I just wanted to say, here's a song to cheer you up. That person will then, on the whole, probably most likely share that song. So what you've just done there is you've just done a trifecta of legacy. You have created someone into being a fan, because that person is going to go, what an amazing thing. They're going to be all over your music forevermore. But not only that, their audience that they share it to is going to say, what an amazing thing you just did. And those people are going to start becoming a fan. And because you're doing that and you're pushing it out on your social media and you're highlighting one person and saying, I just want to look after that one person, all of your audience then have legacy, and they just think, what an amazing thing that you just did. All you did, if you think about it, this is where people are talking about ad strategies and they're talking about boosts and PR companies. What did you do? I sang someone a song. Like literally that simple. I just sung someone a song, and all of a sudden you've made someone's year, and you've made their friends and family their day, and you've made given your audience something, all for free, for 3 minutes of your time to do something that you just go, yeah, but that's what I do. I'm a musician. Isn't that mad? That's crazy. But no musicians are doing that. And that's the way. You just go, I'm just going to look after people.
That's amazing advice. And so simple too. I mean, literally someone could do that right now for free, wherever they are, put it out there and do that over and over, connecting with people one-on-one, just showing up. And I think in a way, the bar is pretty low right now because of people recording at their homes or doing live streams. And the quality is not going to be the best as if it was coming out of a studio or maybe a huge venue or something. But people aren't expecting perfection right now. They actually like seeing the raw and seeing the live and just having that connection with people.
Absolutely. 100%.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to talk about the Music Business Academy. And I wanted to ask you kind of what was it that caused you to start the DK Music Business Academy, and what is kind of your vision for that? in helping musicians and getting their music out there. I know that you've spent a lot of time putting it together, and you've got a group of people that go through there and learn more from you. So what was it that made you start this Music Business Academy?
Do you know, I think because I used to own a music university in the UK, it's the largest sort of set of music colleges in the world. And I sold that several years ago, started a management company, went back to being a musician, which is what I've known and loved. I've always loved education. It was always my thing. It was my passion, more so than being a musician. You know, as much as I love being a musician, I love this stuff. I love, you know, I'm just so in awe of the psychology and the strategies and building things. And I love building businesses and stuff. And I think the thing with DK Music Business Academy was this was my way of actually being able to work with musicians. The one element I missed from being owning the college, the university, was sitting with musicians and saying, how are we going to make this happen? How do we get from A to B? How do we get you from where you are to where you want to be? And I loved that bit. And so when, you know, the audience was growing on YouTube, and it was just a chance to kind of to think of a fun way of spending the day. Because I also believe as well is we spend so much thinking about the targets and the goals and the vision. And sometimes it's nice to say, what do you want to do on a daily basis? And for me, for most of my life, it was, I want to play bass all day, every day. That's all I want to do. If I'm on tour, then that's fine. The problem is after 20 years of doing that, I definitely found that the tour buses and the vans and the getting in at 3 o'clock in the morning was weighing heavily. And then it was like, well, what do you want to do on a daily basis? And it was like, I want to talk about music with musicians, and I want to talk about strategies, and I want to do that. And that's what it is. It's a case, that's where I spend all my time. There's a closed community face group where people can ask questions. There's like I have a direct line where people can text. And then on top of that, every week I get to go and do a bunch of research, make courses. The other thing is I love YouTube, but YouTube is very much like you've got 30 seconds. So I'm like, okay, here's my top 5 tips. And I'm like, I'll see you tomorrow. And like, that's not the way you build a career. You don't build a career with someone saying, here's my 3 tips to build a career. It's like, no, a career is going to take 40 years. So with the courses, I can really be geeky. I can go into detail and say, look, we're going to spend half an hour talking about this one detail because it's not a 3-second blog. And so that's what I love about it. I can be as geeky as I want. I can talk about music strategies and the music industries all day, every day. And that's how I can spend my day. And it means I can come to Nashville and spend 3 months there next year. So like, you know, life's good.
That'll be awesome. Well, I'm so excited about what you're doing and teaching musicians these strategies and having a place for community where they can get their questions answered. And as things change, there will be more questions, I'm sure. So this is a great resource for anyone who's looking for community and to really dig into the strategies of the business and learning how to do each of these things. Like we talked about, there are so many options out there and lots of possibility, but it's good to have people to have a sounding board and ask questions and get those answers. So I will link to the Music Business Academy as well as your YouTube channel so they can check out your videos, and especially the 20-day release plan. I think that's just so helpful, something that anybody can pick up as a template and use starting with their next release. So I really wanted to have you on the show and talk about what you're doing because I really think it is important and special. So thank you for all that you're doing. And thanks for being on the show today to share some of your story and some of your advice with the musicians. Thanks for being here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. And I will see you in Nashville as well.
All right.
Real quick, I want to say a big thank you for watching this behind the episode here on the YouTube channel. And I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel for more topics like this coming soon. We have new episodes of the podcast every single week, and share the behind the scenes right here on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Also, if you enjoy this podcast and want to show your support, consider joining our Patreon community to support us on a monthly basis. You can check out all the details at patreon.com/Rustic Songbird. That's patreon.com/Rustic Songbird to become a patron today. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.